In the bustling city of Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, the president of the country, sat quietly in his presidential office. The weight of responsibility rested heavily on his shoulders as he reviewed crucial government documents, the glow of the African sun streaming through the windows, casting a golden hue across the room. The air conditioning hummed faintly, doing little to relieve the stifling tension hanging in the atmosphere. The country was in the midst of various challenges: political instability, poverty, and an uncertain future, and Traoré knew the consequences of a wrong move could be disastrous. It was on this particularly tense morning that a yellowed envelope, bearing a Jamaican stamp, caught his attention. His frown deepened as he picked it up. "A letter from Jamaica?" he murmured, surprised. Carefully, he peeled open the envelope, and inside he found a handwritten letter in firm, elegant strokes. To his astonishment, the letter was from Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world. The letter began simply, "Dear President Traoré," and what followed was a personal message from Bolt, recounting his childhood in Jamaica, how he had run barefoot through the streets of Trelawney, how he had admired leaders who fought for their people, and how he saw a parallel between his journey on the track and Traoré's struggles for his country's freedom. Each word was imbued with respect and a sense of hope, a human gesture that transcended their different worlds. As Traoré read the letter, a sense of awe washed over him. How could a global legend like Bolt have any interest in a small, struggling nation like Burkina Faso? He had never imagined such a connection. "Alima," he called to his assistant, a brilliant young woman fluent in several languages and well-versed in the intricacies of African diplomacy. "Have you ever heard of Usain Bolt?" She smiled knowingly. "Of course, Mr. President. He's a global legend. But why would he write to you?" Traoré shook his head, unable to answer immediately. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Usain Bolt strolled through the garden of his home in Kingston, Jamaica, reflecting on the letter he had just sent. By his side was Marcus, his longtime friend and manager, who had cautioned him about the risks of becoming involved in political matters. "Aren't you afraid of being misunderstood?" Marcus asked. Bolt shook his head confidently. "It's not about politics, Marcus. It's about recognizing courage where it exists. I admire the fight for freedom. What Ibrahim is doing is much bigger than politics." As he looked out at the horizon, Bolt wondered how his words would reach someone so far away. He didn't expect it, but he hoped they would have an impact on a country far removed from his own world. Back in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim felt a strange connection to the sprinter as he read the letter. It was as though they were both racing against time but on different tracks. Despite their starkly different worlds, there was a common thread. This exchange of words felt like a breath of fresh air in the midst of the heavy burden of leadership. The letter, with its depth of respect and hope, had struck a chord in him that he hadn't expected. As Ibrahim reflected on the letter, he knew that this was more than just a brief moment of inspiration. It was the beginning of something deeper, a bridge of understanding that transcended the borders of their countries. Both Ibrahim and Bolt were leaders in their own right, facing battles in very different arenas. But the letter was a reminder that leadership was not just about the title, it was about the responsibility to inspire, to act with integrity, and to understand the struggles of those who are far away. The exchange of letters between Ibrahim Traoré and Usain Bolt continued to grow, with each message carrying more weight and meaning than the last. As Traoré sat at his desk in the presidential office, he found himself lost in thought, pondering the words that Bolt had sent him. In his response, he expressed his gratitude for the letter, explaining the situation in Burkina Faso, the political instability, the poverty, and the relentless struggles of the people. Traoré felt that, despite the distance between them, the words shared between the two men were a bond that united them in their shared human experience. He felt deeply moved by the sprinter's willingness to connect with him and his country, despite their vastly different lives. Bolt had written not just as an athlete, but as someone who understood the challenges of resilience, perseverance, and leadership. Traoré understood that this was something larger than just political alliances. It was a genuine human connection, one that transcended nationality and background. He read Bolt's words aloud to himself, feeling both the weight of his leadership and the immense responsibility of guiding his people through difficult times. He could not afford to miss an opportunity to respond, to not just thank Bolt, but to share the resilience of the people of Burkina Faso. In the letter, Traore explained how the country, despite its hardships, had never lost hope. He referenced the women in the fields, working tirelessly to feed their families despite having little. He highlighted the strength of those who, with calloused hands and broken dreams, still pushed forward. It was these people who continued to dream big, despite the odds stacked against them. The letter had become more than just a formal exchange. It was a way for Ibrahim to show the world that even in the face of great difficulty, Burkina Faso's spirit remained strong. As he sealed the letter and prepared to send it to Jamaica, he couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of something much larger. In Kingston, Bolt received Traoré's letter with surprise and emotion. He read it aloud to Marcus, who remained silent until the last word. "He's poetic," Marcus commented, sensing the depth in Traoré's response. "It's not just a letter, it's a reflection of his strength." Bolt smiled, nodding in agreement. "Yes, and truthful. You know, Marcus, I think I underestimated the power of words. Maybe we should do more of this, connecting different worlds." For both men, this simple exchange of letters had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that, despite the challenges each country faced, there was always room for empathy and understanding. It was a connection they both needed, a rare and unexpected bridge between two vastly different worlds. Meanwhile, back in Ouagadougou, Alima, Traoré's assistant, began to understand the significance of the letters. She saw the impact it had on her boss, as well as the new perspective it offered her. Alima had always seen her work as a bureaucratic necessity, but now, she realized that there was a deeper purpose to her job, one that went beyond the paperwork and meetings. She began to see how words and gestures, however small, could change the course of history. "Ibrahim," Alima said one day, reflecting on the exchange, "maybe this is how we build bridges. Not just through policies, but through understanding and connection." Traore looked at her, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Yes, Alima," he replied, "but words need to be followed by actions." Bolt, too, felt the need to expand on his reflections. He decided to write again to Traore, sharing more of his own experiences, how defeat on the track had taught him resilience, and how falling was inevitable, but what mattered was how one got back up. Bolt spoke of the challenges he had faced, both in his career and in his personal life. He wanted to offer more than just words, he wanted to share the lessons that had shaped him into the person he was. As he wrote the letter, he felt that same connection to Traore, a shared understanding that leadership wasn't just about running fast or managing a country, it was about getting back up after each fall. Bolt's words continued to inspire Ibrahim, and as he read the letter, he felt even more motivated to act with the same resilience in his leadership. The correspondence between the two men had evolved into a mutual admiration, each learning from the other's journey. This was more than just a friendship, it was the foundation of something larger, something that went beyond medals or political positions. They were learning lessons that would shape their leadership for years to come, and their story was far from over. As the weeks went by, the exchange of letters between Ibrahim Traoré and Usain Bolt began to capture the attention of the world. Journalists and scholars alike started to take notice of the unexpected connection between the sprinter from Jamaica and the president of Burkina Faso. It wasn't just a political or sporting matter. It was a story about human connections transcending boundaries, about how individuals from completely different worlds could learn from and inspire each other. Traoré had begun to incorporate Bolt's words into his speeches, using them as inspiration for his own leadership. He would often quote Bolt's philosophy of resilience, referring to it as a powerful lesson for the people of Burkina Faso. "If one man can run faster than anyone else, why can't we dream bigger for our people?" he would ask. The words resonated deeply with his countrymen, who, despite facing unimaginable hardship, found strength in the idea that they could dream beyond their circumstances. Meanwhile, Bolt had started following the news from Burkina Faso more closely. He spoke frequently with Marcus, reflecting on the challenges of governing and the unique courage required to lead a nation through political instability and crisis. "Running is individual, but governing is different," he said one day. "Traore is trying to unite an entire country. That requires a different kind of courage." Bolt began to see the role of leadership through a new lens, one that extended beyond the athletic world and into the realm of political struggle. He admired Traoré's ability to unite people in the face of adversity and how he navigated the complex landscape of leadership. Bolt realized that while his world revolved around individual competition, Traoré's was centered on collective progress. This newfound understanding gave him a sense of purpose beyond just being a sports icon. He knew he had a platform that could be used for something greater than just setting records. The letters had not only impacted Traoré and Bolt, they had begun to ripple out, influencing those around them. In Ouagadougou, Alima, Traoré's assistant, found herself inspired by the exchange. Her role had always been focused on the logistics of governance, ensuring that things ran smoothly. But now, she began to see her work in a new light. She understood that her contributions, no matter how small, could help facilitate these types of global connections. "Ibrahim," she said one afternoon, "maybe this is how we build bridges, not just through policy, but through understanding. Through human gestures." Traoré nodded thoughtfully. "Words are powerful," he replied, "but they must be followed by actions." The relationship between Traoré and Bolt had evolved beyond just personal admiration. They had become symbols of resilience, compassion, and unity. Their letters created a dialogue that transcended borders and sparked a movement. It wasn't just about the two of them anymore, it was about what they represented: the ability to overcome adversity, the strength to lead with empathy, and the power of connection in a divided world. In Jamaica, Bolt began using his influence to highlight issues in Burkina Faso. He organized sporting events and charity drives to raise funds for the country, aiming to provide resources for educational programs and community development. He used his fame to draw attention to the struggles of a nation that had long been overlooked by the international community. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, Traoré took Bolt's lessons to heart. He started to implement more grassroots initiatives, focusing on the needs of the people in rural communities. He visited villages where political instability had caused widespread poverty, speaking to the citizens directly and hearing their concerns. In one village, he met a woman named Fatou, who had lost her husband during a previous conflict. She spoke of her desire for peace, not wealth, and how she just wanted her children to grow up in a safe and secure environment. "Ibrahim," she said, "we don't need riches. We just need security." Traoré was deeply moved by her words. He promised to do everything in his power to ensure that her children, and the children of Burkina Faso, would have the future they deserved. It was moments like these that reminded him why he was fighting, to ensure that the people of his country could live without fear and with the hope of a better tomorrow. Through these experiences, Traoré's leadership grew stronger. He became more than just a president, he became a symbol of hope for the people of Burkina Faso. And Bolt, with his fame and platform, became more than just a sports legend, he became a champion for global change. The two men continued their correspondence, each one learning from the other's experiences. It was a partnership that had started with a simple letter but had turned into something much greater. They were both building something that would transcend borders, a movement of resilience and compassion that was changing lives across the world. As the months passed, the exchange of letters between Usain Bolt and Ibrahim Traoré became a symbol of something much larger than their personal connection. It began to captivate the global community, spreading messages of solidarity, unity, and the importance of working together to overcome adversity. Media outlets from all over the world began to cover the story, drawing attention not only to the challenges faced by Burkina Faso but also to the unlikely relationship between the world's fastest man and a president trying to rebuild his war-torn nation. In Jamaica, Bolt's influence continued to grow. He used his platform to bring attention to the pressing issues faced by the people of Burkina Faso. Through various charity events, including an international 5K race to raise funds for education in the country, Bolt rallied the global sporting community. Athletes from all over the world joined him, their efforts contributing to building schools, providing medical aid, and supporting programs that empowered women and children in rural Burkina Faso. "I want to do more than run," Bolt said during one of his interviews. "I want to help people believe that no matter where they are in the world, they have a chance. We all have a race to run, and it's not always about being the fastest. Sometimes it's about helping others finish the race." In Ouagadougou, the impact of Bolt's support was felt throughout the country. Traore had used the funds raised by the sporting events to initiate community-based projects. The money went towards rebuilding schools, creating clean water systems, and offering scholarships for young people to pursue higher education. The people of Burkina Faso began to see that their president was not just a leader in name but a symbol of hope and action. He had transformed his leadership style, moving from reactive to proactive, from simply governing to creating lasting change for his people. "Leadership is not just about power," Traore often said in his speeches. "It's about action, about showing that your words can lead to real change. We are not just changing our government, we are changing our future." In the villages, the difference was tangible. Families now had access to better healthcare, children were receiving quality education, and women were empowered to run small businesses that had long been dominated by men. Traore's leadership, influenced by Bolt's words, had sparked a revolution from the grassroots up. It was a quiet revolution, one where communities worked together to lift each other up. Meanwhile, in Jamaica, Bolt's impact extended beyond the sports world. He had long been regarded as a symbol of excellence, but his newfound dedication to international development and diplomacy reshaped the way people saw him. He was no longer just a sprinter with world records, he had become a global ambassador for hope, resilience, and the power of giving back. For Bolt, this journey was personal. As the son of Jamaica, a country that had always been proud of its cultural and athletic achievements, he saw the potential to make a real difference. His letters to Traore had taught him that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the smallest acts of kindness could have a ripple effect that transformed entire nations. His decision to step out of the world of sports and into the world of global diplomacy had reshaped his legacy, and he knew that the world needed more athletes who were willing to do the same. "I was lucky enough to have a platform," Bolt said in an interview after returning from a trip to Burkina Faso. "But not everyone has the chance to be heard. If my story can inspire someone, anywhere in the world, to believe that they can change their circumstances, then I've done my job." As the collaboration between Bolt and Traore grew, it became clear that their friendship was about more than just symbolic gestures. They were actively shaping the future of their countries. Their influence reached beyond borders, beyond continents, and into the hearts of people who needed hope. They were no longer just individuals but leaders who understood the importance of global solidarity. The letters continued to circulate between the two leaders, each one more profound than the last. They shared personal reflections, stories of struggles and triumphs, and ideas on how to face the growing challenges of the 21st century. With every letter, their connection deepened, and they began to realize that despite the distance between them, they were fighting the same fight, a fight for justice, equality, and the opportunity to dream beyond what the world had set for them. In Burkina Faso, Traore spoke to his people often about the power of unity and the importance of learning from each other. He would reference Bolt in his speeches, comparing the resilience of his people to the sprinter's determination on the track. He would speak of how Bolt had taught him that leadership was not about maintaining power, but about empowering others to achieve their own success. "True leadership is about teaching others how to run their race," Traore told his ministers one afternoon, "and how to keep going even when the track is rough and the finish line seems far away." On the global stage, the correspondence between Traore and Bolt began to inspire leaders and citizens alike. Their story was a reminder that greatness was not confined to those in power or those with wealth. It was found in the resilience of people who faced daily challenges, the athletes who ran with purpose, and the leaders who listened and acted with compassion. By the time of the final letter, both leaders were aware that they had achieved something extraordinary. They had shown the world that leadership, strength, and resilience were not just about individual accomplishments, but about the collective good. They had built a bridge, not just between Burkina Faso and Jamaica, but between people everywhere who shared the desire to make a difference. Traoré's letter to Bolt was a message of gratitude and unity. It acknowledged how their exchange had not only changed his perspective on leadership but had inspired a new way of thinking about the world. He wrote, "Your words have been a guiding light for us, Mr. Bolt. In our darkest times, we have seen a future filled with possibility, because of the hope you've given us. We may be separated by distance, but our hearts are united in our dreams." The response from Bolt was equally heartfelt. "I am honored, Mr. President," he wrote, "to have been a part of your journey. Our worlds may be different, but the pursuit of a better future is something we both understand. Continue to lead with the courage and compassion you have shown, and know that I will always be with you, running alongside you in spirit." With those final words, their correspondence came to an end, but its impact continued to reverberate across the globe. Both leaders had shown the world that leadership was not just about power or influence, it was about connection, empathy, and the courage to dream beyond the horizon. In the years following their remarkable exchange of letters, both Usain Bolt and Ibrahim Traoré had become symbols of a new kind of leadership. What began as a simple exchange between a world-renowned athlete and a political leader transformed into a global movement for unity, resilience, and hope. The seeds they had planted in their letters had begun to blossom into something extraordinary, inspiring millions of people worldwide to believe in the power of connection, empathy, and the ability to make a difference. In Burkina Faso, the progress driven by Traoré's leadership continued to thrive. His reforms, influenced by the lessons shared with Bolt, took root deep within the country's communities. The programs focused on education, healthcare, and sustainable agriculture had begun to yield real, tangible results. The people of Burkina Faso were no longer just survivors of adversity, they were thriving, building their future with renewed hope and determination. Traoré's leadership style had evolved over time, shaped by the words of a man who, despite his fame and success, still believed in the power of everyday people. He had embraced the idea that leadership wasn't just about commanding a nation, it was about uplifting its citizens, about making them feel seen and heard, about making them believe in their own potential. Through partnerships with international organizations, many of which had been influenced by Bolt's advocacy, Burkina Faso's rural communities began to see significant improvements. Agricultural reforms led to increased food production, education programs trained a new generation of young minds, and healthcare initiatives reduced child mortality rates. People who had once felt invisible in the global landscape were now receiving the resources and opportunities they had long been denied. In Ouagadougou, the streets that had once been filled with unrest and uncertainty were now bustling with activity. The city was becoming a hub of innovation, with young entrepreneurs starting businesses, and international companies investing in the country's future. It was clear that Burkina Faso was on the rise, and its ascent was driven by the unity of its people and their collective commitment to change. Traoré continued to speak of Bolt's influence in his speeches, reminding his citizens that true progress came from collaboration, from looking beyond borders and beyond differences. He spoke about how, in the most unlikely of ways, a simple letter had sparked a revolution in his way of thinking. Bolt, for his part, had transformed as well. No longer was he just a sports icon, remembered only for his Olympic victories. He had used his fame and influence to help raise awareness about global issues, particularly in underdeveloped countries like Burkina Faso. His philanthropic efforts had grown exponentially, and he was now seen as a global ambassador for change, using his platform to support causes such as education, healthcare, and economic development. Through his work with the United Nations and various non-governmental organizations, Bolt had expanded his reach far beyond the world of sports. He had become a voice for the voiceless, speaking out for those who had no platform to tell their stories. His work in Africa, particularly in Burkina Faso, had solidified his legacy as not just a sprinter but as a man who understood the power of hope and the importance of giving back. Bolt continued to organize events aimed at raising funds for projects in Africa, using his fame to bring attention to causes that often went unnoticed by the global community. He worked closely with African leaders, particularly Traore, to ensure that the initiatives they had started together continued to grow and flourish. In Jamaica, Bolt's influence was felt just as deeply. He had long been an inspiration to young athletes, but now he was showing them that there was more to life than winning medals. He encouraged the youth to think beyond their own personal achievements and to consider how they could use their success to help others. Bolt spoke of leadership in the same way he spoke of running, a relentless pursuit of progress, a commitment to moving forward, and a deep understanding that every race was connected to a greater purpose. Meanwhile, Traoré's leadership continued to inspire not only his people but leaders around the world. His approach to governance, marked by compassion, understanding, and a deep commitment to unity, became a model for others to follow. He showed the world that leadership wasn't just about maintaining power, it was about creating a legacy of positive change, one that would last long after he had left office. The letters between Bolt and Traoré, once a private exchange between two men from different worlds, had become a symbol of the power of words and the impact they could have on the world. Their correspondence had bridged the gap between two very different nations, creating a lasting connection between Jamaica and Burkina Faso that transcended politics and borders. Their legacy lived on in the lives of those they had touched, in the communities they had helped, and in the hearts of the people who had witnessed the transformation that came from their unique friendship. The story of their correspondence was shared in schools, universities, and media outlets around the world, inspiring new generations to think beyond their own limitations and to dream big. In the years that followed, Traoré and Bolt continued to work together, though their letters had slowed. Their bond, however, remained strong, a reminder of what could be accomplished when leaders across the world set aside their differences and worked toward a common goal. They had proven that true greatness was not measured by personal achievements, but by the ability to inspire and uplift others. And so, the story of Usain Bolt and Ibrahim Traoré became a part of history, a testament to the power of unlikely friendships, and a reminder that even in the most difficult of circumstances, there is always hope, always the possibility of change, and always the potential to build a better world.